Presenting Unused Beauty. Today we're going to take another look at 1609 quarto of Shakespeare's sonnets. We're going to look at Sonnet 4. Unthrifty loveliness, why dost thou spend upon thyself thy beauty's legacy? Nature's bequest gives nothing but doth lend, and being frank, she lends to those are free. Then beauteous, This word is offensive, so I will change it. Here is the word changed. That's better. Let's start over again. Unthrifty loveliness, why dost thou spend upon thyself thy beauty's legacy? Nature's bequest gives nothing but doth lend, and being frank, she lends to those are free. Then beauteous miser, why dost thou abuse the bounteous largesse given thee to give? Profitless usurer, why dost thou use so great a sum of sums, it canst not live? For having traffic with thyself alone, thou of thyself, thy sweet self, dost deceive. Then how, when nature calls thee to be gone, what acceptable audit canst thou leave? Thy unused beauty must be tombed with thee, which used lives the executor to be. Sonnet 4 hides more puzzles. Here are the hints. There are puzzles. The sonnet number is directly above the fourth letter of the alphabet, the D endorsed, which happens to be the fourth word in line. It is also a clever authorship clue. We also have a type 3A4T puzzle located in lines 9 and 10. As you can see, 4 above T, that is F-O-R above T, is another pun on the number 40. Thyself appears 4 times. Beauty appears 3 different ways for an example of polyptyton. Use appears 3 different ways for another example of polyptyton. A sum of sums suggests adding something. Finally, audit also indicates adding. So that's what we're going to do. Notice also that 4 above the D is a very unsubtle hint that we are to equate letters with numbers. And thereby using gematria, we can figure out what's really going on. Let's add these gematria values, V and V, from the first 2 lines of the sonnet. The sum is 53. When we subtract the Roman numeral values in these letters, the 2 uppercase V's, the result is 43. The Latin alphabet repeating count value of 43 is VV, which is duplicated in the 2 V's that we see at the beginning of the poem. Next, we add all these gematria values in the red boxes. They're of the same size and they're on the left-hand margin of the poem. Then we subtract the gematria value of A plus the number of italic letters. The remainder is a multiple of 17. For our next little puzzle, we add the same gematria values that we did in the previous puzzle. Then we subtract the gematria value of this letter, the uppercase V. Then we subtract the number of lines in the poem. And we subtract the value of the uppercase italic A plus the number of italic letters in the sonnet. The remainder is another multiple of 17. For our next puzzle, we count the number of words which are in all lowercase letters. The sum is a digit sum number which adds to our target number of 17. Now we take that number and subtract the sonnet number to get another multiple of 17. We have 3 sums which are multiples of 17, thereby satisfying the tria sunt omnia principle. Here are the solutions. These are multiples of 17, 85, 221, and 255. This is the digit sum number, 89. What is the evidence that these are real? First, there are so few uppercase letters. The sonnet number is directly above the 4th letter of the alphabet, which happens to be in the 4th word in the line. This tells us that we are to equate letters with numbers and vice versa. It is a perfect clue to use gematria. Let's look at the words. Let's do another thought experiment. Let's assume he is addressing himself in the 3rd person. This is the rhetorical figure known as Iliism. In the first 2 lines, we can see that he is lamenting how he misspends his beauty's legacy. In line 3, he hints that he considers his writing gifts to be natural, in other words, nature's bequests. But nature is honest and lends to those who are free, perhaps in thought. Would these lines in the 2nd quarto describe the Stratford man? Would he have described himself as a miser? Was he abusing his income or investing poorly, as he says here? Why dost thou abuse the bounteous largesse given thee to give? Would he have described his income as largesse? Largesse is reserved for gifts given to people, or annuities, or honoraria. Would he have described it as something that he was to redistribute, as in given thee to give? Would the moneylender describe himself as a profitless usurer? And did he use so great a sum of sums so badly that he was unable to live? The answer to all of these is no. Let's go back to this phrase, given thee to give. He really means he is selfish. And using money for himself, which should have gone elsewhere. We can read this as, why dost thou spend upon thyself the bounteous largesse given thee to give? In line 9, he says, he has become a loner. Traffic with thyself alone definitely means he's alone. And of course, he has self-doubts about what he is doing. This looks like a clue we're on the right track in our experiment. Thou of thyself could be self-referential, which is confirmed when thyself is repeated. In the last 2 lines of the final quatrain, he is worried about what he will leave behind after he dies. When nature calls thee to be gone is absolutely describing when you die. What acceptable audit canst thou leave? What legacy will you leave to your heirs? Thy unused beauty could easily refer to the unpublished plays, which would appear for the first time in the first folio. And happily, not be entombed with him, as he fears. In this last line, he wishes that should the unused beauty be published, as in which used, it would act like the executor of his estate and provide an audit for his heirs. That's what he means by lives the executor to be. Thy beauty's legacy in line 2 foreshadows line 14. What was the bounteous largesse? It was a £1,000 annuity that the Queen Elizabeth gave him for unknown purposes beginning in 1586. What are we to make of acceptable here in line 12? His long poems went through many editions. The plays were allegedly well attended. He could question his legacy like this under one condition: if it was not acceptable for him to publish poems or plays under his own name, which is a clue the authorship question is real. These letters, the first three uppercase letters in the poem, form the abbreviation for a motto. Vero, nihil, various. The motto for this man's family. The lines in the sonnet mirror his life. He was granted a £1,000 annuity in 1586, as he describes, the bounteous largesse given thee to give, which he could use however he wished. Bonner Miller Cutting found out that the annuity was issued under Privy Seal warrant, in which there were no strings attached. I suspect he was to use this money to produce the pro-Tudor history plays, but he didn't. By the mid-1580s, he was so broke he only had 4 servants. That's why he calls himself a profitless usurer. So great a sum of sums describes his annuity. In the early 1590s, he retired from court life, which is why he says in this poem, "For having traffic with thyself alone, thou of thyself, thy sweet self, dost deceive." In other words, he's fooling himself that retiring from court life is going to do him any good. He was in ill health during the latter part of his years and worried about his children's inheritance. Throughout his adult life, he was forced to sell almost every one of the estates that he had inherited, including the family seat of Castle Hedingham. And it was unacceptable for nobles to publish poems and plays under their own names. But what does this final couplet mean? In our experiment, unused beauty can mean his unpublished works. But he thinks they could be useful to his heirs. Therefore, his beauties are his works. Finally, he had 4 children, 3 by his first wife and 1 by his second. And his code name at court was 40. With all the accurate parallels to this man's life, we can surmise, based on the evidence in this sonnet, that this man was writing as Shakespeare. Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.